Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening, one and all. Good evening, town of Highlands.
Gotta grab some notes, I'll be right back.
Okay. Start off our public comment. We're going to call on Dr. Shaboy and whoever else would like to speak on the school budget. But before you start speaking, come on up. Before you start speaking, I guess I have to say congratulations to the school, which you happen to be a very important part of. Number one in Orange County, correct? As far as best schools go?
Yes, sir.
And number 182 in the country or in
the
New
state.
York? In the state.
Yeah, there's about 1,000 high schools in New York State, and we're 182 in the state, and number one again in the county.
I didn't go to O'Neill, but I remembered those numbers.
Yeah, it's, again, it's always good to get a little bit of recognition. It was an interesting article in the newspaper that highlighted Onteora, which they deserve, number one in Hudson Valley, certainly. But then they talked about other districts, but didn't talk about us. But we know where we're at, so
Yeah.
we're very happy.
Again, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
really
it's
great.
a team effort, certainly. It's the support of the board that makes that possible, support of the outstanding teachers. We have great kids, so it's a great opportunity for us just to showcase some of that.
It all starts in kindergarten.
Absolutely does.
Okay.
Pre-K, absolutely does.
Okay.
So,
All right, sir.
So thank you. First off, thank you to the board. Thank you to the supervisor for allowing me to come. You will recall for the past 4 or 5 years, I've come myself to the board to talk about the budget and to just present any information, address any questions. We do have Dr. Andrea Tejador, who is the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Instruction, and Technology here. So if there's questions for her, I will gladly defer to her. So our proposed budget for this year, and I do remind everybody that the vote is next Tuesday, the 21st, from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the Highland Falls Intermediate School. The budget is a $32,087,219 proposed budget. That reflects an increase of 4.8% budget to budget over this current fiscal year. It represents a tax increase in the amount of 2.47%, which is below the tax cap rate of 2.92%. Budget-to-budget increase is approximately $1,480,000. Approximately half of the increase is contractual obligations that the district has from previous years, whether it's collectively negotiated or it's long-term obligations the district has had. Approximately half of the increase is due to those things. So where is the other half from? Well, as the board is, I'm certain, aware, safety and security in our schools is a much more in-your-face issue than it ever has been before. So the district has undertaken over the past 5 years to improve our security and our safety throughout all of our buildings. Last spring, we had the Sheriff's Department come and do an audit of our safety program and our safety plan, and they made some recommendations. Some of those things included simple things, one-time expenses, like putting shatter-resistant film on our first floor of all of our buildings. We took care of that. Improving our access points and our sign-in procedure so that everybody's ID is scanned and we can see who somebody might be a nefarious character if their ID says such a thing, which it doesn't always. The last recommendation that we did not count on was, and this was done after last year's budget, was having a uniformed police in all of our buildings. So we, through economy this February, added sheriffs, they call them sheriff's security deputies in all of our buildings. They are there all day long for all of our children in every one of our buildings. Previously, we had a part-time SRO, thanks to the town, and we do appreciate that. The goal was to have somebody in every one of our buildings, and we've been able to do that. Well, this year, we actually had to budget for that. So of that approximately $750,000 difference, that was half, $165,000 of that is that security expense. In addition to that, we have special ed tuition costs that have increased. As we send our children to out-of-district placements, those costs rise. That's due to healthcare costs for those placements, as well as some of the higher needs that we have. So the tuition increase alone is $250,000 over this year's expenditures. In addition, when we send children to out-of-district placements, we have to transport them. That is the law. And the increase in transportation, contract transportation for those children, is about $167,000. So if you just take those things, you're up to about $583,000 worth of expenditure increases over this year. So where's the rest of it from? In addition to some of our children being out of district place, our goal has been over the last 4 years to educate children who are educable in our district. So we had created some self-contained classrooms on a K-8 level. This year, we had some special ed children who we have in our high school who have a little bit higher needs, so that was this year. Next year, as those kids move into 10th grade, we need to increase that. So we have a special education teacher at the high school level. You may have noticed that our enrollment has increased. If you wander around, there's more kids going to all of our schools, and we had a increase in kindergarten 2 years ago. We had an increase in first grade this year, and next year that bubble moves into second grade. And when I say bubble, well, that's not really the right term, because a bubble disappears. We've had sustained increase at the elementary level, and we'll be adding a section of elementary to our classes. That will keep our classes in the second grade, instead of being 30, down to 20. That's what our projection is. In addition, we have a central registration position. Currently, if a family moves in and they have a child in second grade, a child in fifth grade, and a child in ninth grade, they have to go to 3 separate buildings and enroll their children. In addition, if that child is eligible for special education services, that is information flow that starts in 3 buildings and goes to 1. In addition, if that child is on free and reduced lunch or has E&L services, again, 3 buildings into 1. So this is an efficiency thing that will help us hopefully gain more money as we have more accurate data, because the more times you have people handling data, the greater the likelihood of an error is. So that's a central registration position. That's about a $35,000 clerical position. The last new thing in this budget is a buildings and grounds position. Over the last 4 years, Mr. Fargo has asked every year for an additional position. We don't get one. And I'll give you an example. This morning, we had a custodian who was out for the morning. We did not have somebody, so Mr. Fargo and Mr. McElduff, the principal, ended up opening up the intermediate school. It's difficult for us to get substitutes, so we're paying more money for overtime than what we like, and we're paying more money for substitutes than we like. Having a position, and we're going to create it as a groundskeeper, because that's the most flexible title under Orange County Civil Service, will give us the ability to have that person do groundskeeping, basic maintenance, as well as custodial work. So those are the additions to the budget. We do expect impact aid, which is always a bone of contention in this district, to remain flat at $3.46 million, as the board probably read in the news at Highlands or just saw on Facebook or anywhere. Senator Schumer is absolutely in our corner on that. He was there when we did the press event at the elementary school, and despite the fact that the administration saber rattles and tries to turn public money into private money, I don't believe Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand, or Congressman Maloney will stand for that. The increase, and again, we don't have actual valuations, but the increase in the average home valued at $230,000 would be approximately $118.63 or $9.89 per month, again, on a house valued at $230,000. If perchance the budget does not pass, the administration and the board will work to cut approximately $275,000 required to meet a contingent level budget. Now I'll take any questions. I know that was a lot, so. And by now you should have received, and if you have not, I did bring extra copies of the budget mailer. They were sent out last week, so if you want, I can leave a couple.
I got a question, not necessarily related to the budget directly, but it's related to what you mentioned about the security piece.
Yes.
So, besides the sheriffs that are now in place, what type of, and I'm sure you do these exercises, and how frequent
Yeah.
do you do certain active shooter kind of exercises?
So we do lockdown drills in all of our buildings. We're required by New York State law to do 12 drills throughout the year, 8 of which must be locked down or lock out or shelter in place. We do more than what we're required. We bring in local law enforcement to help us with that. They go through our buildings with us. They're a different set of eyes. Again, we're going to bring back in the sheriffs now that we've had everything in place, because our hope is with a different lens. We've already done what they said we should do. So now what else can they guide us to? Are they going to point to some other blind spots that maybe they hit the big fish first, and now they're going to hit the smaller ones? In addition, Chief Pieri coordinated for a grant to have alert training. I don't remember what all of it, active law enforcement, resistance training, I believe is what it is, alert. And it was with the town of Highlands, the village of Highland Falls. They did it at O'Neill, so they have practiced that as well. We're in constant communication with local law enforcement for the safety of our children. So again, we do drills, we have alert training where the police are doing training in our buildings, and we have great communication.
And so there's one officer that's there all day,
All day, each of the buildings,
armed, right?
armed,
Okay.
uniformed and armed.
Uniformed and armed. And then there's additional training, which includes the law enforcement from, I'm assuming, both municipalities?
Yep.
Highland Falls and Town Highlands?
Yes, yes. We're looking at other things as well. We have a smart bond, and part of the smart bond is for safety. So obviously you can buy technology with smart bonds, but some of it's also safety. And we're looking at some solutions that would help keep our faculty, our staff, and our students safe. Keyless entry, even for our classrooms, that, if there's a lockdown or something, every room is always locked. The teacher would just use their ID to get into the regular classroom on a regular basis. We're always in lockdown. A school in New York State is always in a lockout anyway. I mean, all of your entrances to all of our schools are locked all the time. So when you go to a lockdown, we train for it. I mean, we've done drills. We've had a couple alarms that went through earlier this year. And when we train our kids, we teach them to block the doors. Run, hide, fight is what we're teaching children now. And as I tried to breach the doors myself, to open the doors, say we're safe, I had a hard time getting in. And that tells me that everybody's trained pretty well. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I think you presented that very well.
Thank you.
We're informed, and certainly the general public that's watching, and in addition to your mailing, they should know what it's all about.
I do want to commend the board. Obviously, this is a superintendent's board budget until the board adopts it. Ms. Sedera and her staff did an amazing job putting it together, along with the principals and Dr. Tejador. We had our budget adopted before we had our final state aid numbers, and what we decided was that we were going to use whatever additional money we got to get that tax rate below. We know we could have come in $50,000, and I know it's only $50,000, but that's $50,000 compounded for the remainder of your lives as taxpayers. So as we got that additional little bit of money, and it is a little, $50,000 is a little bit of money, we used that to lower the tax rate. We felt that was important, and that's something that the board believed in. So our goal is to be responsible to the taxpayers, and also to keep getting accolades from the U.S. News and World Reports or the niche list, which rates us #1 in the county consistently. Our children deserve that, and you as taxpayers deserve that. So thank you.
Mr. Burns, you're the only audience we have. Do you have any questions?
I was going to go to the school board meeting and ask my questions.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Perfect.
Dr. Chaboy, thank you very much.
Thank you,
And
thank
again,
you.
congratulations to
Thank you.
O'Neill.
Have a very good evening, and again, thank you for allowing me to speak today.
I just want to also convey thanks for what you all do in terms of educating the children. Obviously, we're above the threshold of average, so that directly reflects on you and all the staff over there.
Highest SATs, highest AP scores. They do a real nice job there. And again, it begins in pre-K and kindergarten, so thank you, thank you.
I'll see you, the hearing Wednesday.
Thank you.
Oh, no, the hearing's over, right?
The budget hearing's over, but I'll be at the community forum.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Mr. Chris Burns. Who's going to talk to us, I think, mostly about seniors? Are you talking to us mostly about seniors?
Seniors, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Chris Barnes, Fort Montgomery. I happen to be the current president of the Highlanders Senior Club, which is a small group of about 25 dysfunctional seniors that meet once a month, trying to accomplish something down the beautiful senior center. And I'm more here to talk about the senior center itself. Webster's dictionary defines a white elephant as something that's useless and very expensive to support. Now, that senior center is sort of a hybrid building, which is owned by the village, controlled by the village. However, the village expects the town to run the recreation programs for the seniors and to pay for it. Now, the center is not useless, but it's very underutilized. Last week, I spoke to the village board about putting a key fob entry system in it so it'd be more accessible to the seniors that use it. But it is very expensive to operate. It's the heat or the AC is on, the electric, the custodial work, the groundskeeping, the snow plowing. Even though every senior in the town of Highlands is allowed to use it, the village taxpayers are the ones that are footing the bill for all that expense. So I have a suggestion. I don't want to, I go to the village, complain, the village board has to talk to the town board, vice versa. You've hired a senior coordinator, and it's sort of like just a dysfunctional situation between the boards that nothing's really happening. And the seniors themselves are their own worst enemy, because the Highlanders are trying to utilize the senior center. The senior coordinator that you hired, they're having a senior appreciation day at the center, which is not handicap accessible, where our building is, where the senior building is. And then you have, the seniors are being pulled in three different directions. There are certain people that don't want the Holy Innocents to lose the Meals on Wheels program. We're under constant threat from that faction that if we don't get more people to come there to eat, so they're running programs there prior to their meals so they have more people to go and eat macaroni and Brussels sprouts. I drive all the way to Newburgh to have that. And then they're constantly threatening that Meals on Wheels is going to cancel Highland Falls if we don't get more people to eat there. So that's something, Mr. Supervisor, as you in charge of, is there any truth to that, or can you check it out? Is there any truth to that?
There's no truth to it that I know about, but I will check it out.
Now, the village also has a grant for that building, and nobody really knows what it says. It's about 5 years old. Originally, I heard after 5 years, they can do whatever they want with it. They can start renting it out to outsiders. I would ask that maybe Supervisor Livesey, and you can speak to Mayor D'Onofrio or whomever, that we have a member of each board. Hopefully with Brian Alward, because he's very active with the seniors. He comes to all the meetings and he volunteers. And Councilman King, I realize you're the liaison to the seniors in this community. However, I follow you on Facebook, and you're very rarely in town or whatever. And, just a member from each board to get a copy of the grant, try to investigate exactly what it says, try to investigate exactly what can be done with the building. I would suggest on your part, Supervisor Livesey, if Councilwoman Gunza, being a former retired village clerk and having a lot of hooks out in Orange County, because it could take 1 hour and one phone call and find out everything. Or it could take 10 meetings and 50 phone calls to find out exactly what the status of the grant is, what we can do with the building, what they can't do with the building. But if in fact, after investigation, I would love the town to try to offer the village $1 for the building, because I'm sure they would be willing to sell the white elephant, turn it into a community center, so it's not only opened up to the seniors to use, they would get first preference on it. And I understand the only reason the grant was written for seniors, because the state wasn't giving any money for community centers. But buy it for $1. This way, the expense of the building would come out of the A budget, where it should be coming from, where both village and town residents are paying the expenses on it, rather than just village residents. Because if I was a village resident, I'd be a little aggravated that how come we're paying for this building and everybody else is using it?
What's curious to know the utilization rate per municipality?
I'm sorry, I'm hard to hear.
The utilization rate per what validates what you just said? Is it, we got
There's an A budget and there's a B budget in the town.
Right.
The A budget is, the money coming out of the A budget pays for everybody in the town and village.
Okay.
The village tax, the town tax that the village people pay go into the A budget. Then there's the B budget that the town has. That's only for expenses outside the village. Like the town police, except for the police chief, the highway department, except for the highway superintendent,
Oh, that's all
right?
in the, it's all in the V, right?
The question I actually have is, how many people are utilizing the senior center, and then what's the breakdown from Fort Montgomery to Highland Falls?
Oh, I have no idea, because right now, all I know is there's about 25 people in there for an hour and a half once a month. And then who comes to bingo, I don't know. Who comes to the chair exercises, I don't know really where they come from. But it's open to all town residents. I'm sure if a senior citizen off of West Point wanted to go to it, they're a town resident. Somebody from Bear Mountain wanted to go to it, they're a town resident. But it's only the village taxpayer that's paying the expenses on the building. That's the injustice I'm speaking of. So I mean, if the town bought it, whether you keep it a senior center or a community center, at least the money to support it would be coming out of the right budget, is all I'm saying.
Next
Or,
question.
I don't know if it's,
Another question, is the grant supposed to be public knowledge?
well, I was at a meeting with you and you agreed to foil it.
Yeah, well, again, what I thought was going to happen is that because our recreation director works for both in the town and the village, that would be an easy thing for him to be able to access. So now I'm hearing that he wasn't able to access it.
Well, I don't know, I haven't seen it. Basically, my knowledge of what it says in the grant is all hearsay. And sometimes when one of us seniors go to a meeting and they hear something, two of them can be at the same meeting, and when they talk to me, I get two different stories. That's why I'm suggesting that a member of each board get a hold of a copy, study it, make the phone calls to find out what you can do with it, what you can't do with it.
Well, I think our legislator, Lori Tortel, would be the perfect person to get that for us.
That should be public.
Yeah, I mean, but she could probably get it easier than anybody. She could go there, right in there and say, yeah.
Well, anytime you talk to the mayor, well, again, this is only hearsay because this is what I've been told. The historian has a copy of it. Why the historian? I don't have the slightest idea.
Makes two of us, but.
But, and even if you don't want to bring it on, I don't know if the town could make a separate tax district for a senior center as like Fort Montgomery Light District. Justin's giving me the evil look.
Well, it's just I I don't think it could be done for that purposes, but I could review it. But I know districts have fallen out of favor generally in most municipalities, other than for very limited purposes.
You know, but as a thought to maybe, if you put it in a separate tax district, it might hold down the tax cap that you people are locked into trying to meet every year. But I'm just doing, I got, you know, there is a petition, hasn't gone public yet. I told the village about it. I'll inform the town board about it. The seniors want something done. And I mean, again, we're destroying ourselves by pulling in three separate directions: the center, the senior center, and Holy Innocents. So,
I have a question. You mentioned key fobs, which is a very trackable way of who enters the building. Was there any sort of a positive reception from the village on that idea? That would allow anyone who had a fob to go in, and it wouldn't be just when somebody was there to open the door at specific times.
it's been positive. I speak to different people. And the fob system, you can put it into a computer that I can activate yours or activate mine. And heaven forbid, I died 2 days later,
You can deactivate.
they can go in there and deactivate it. It's a computer program that when you open the door with the fob, the computer can tell you whose fob opened the door and what time they opened it. Now, we just put in a big overhead projector system and a screen, tied it in. The Highlanders paid for it. The Highlanders paid for the sound system with the mics and the speakers and everything else in that building. But we have it set up now that you can plug a television into it, you can plug a computer into it and go to Netflix. They can show all the movies. And the guy that did it, he did both. The sound system 5 years ago and the projector system. He's going to get me a quote, because he also does the fob systems. And we can do it on one door, or if the town wanted to buy the building for $1 and close off the back room and put rec in the back room. And the reason I brought up the district is you could get more money and hire the senior coordinator rather than have people arguing over why are you charging us $6 to go on a bus trip. You know, and again, we cut our own throat, but just asking the board and the village board to get together and try to do something, to work something out, investigate. I'm begging you, June, please.
That's the man you need to address.
He's looking at you.
Well, just so you know, also to clear the record, that I have spoken with Merv Livesey Jr. Just as late as probably a week ago about this subject of the senior center. Many of these things that we're talking about right now, about the access, because they own the building, he disagreed with, by the way, that if there was an access issue, you feel like that was resolvable. So there is communication. I think we probably have to have a bigger meeting and maybe even some public forum to allow people to be, so it to be transparent that there's some things going on. But I think it boils down to who is really trying to use this facility. Because when you say the seniors, is it 100 people? Is it 10 people? Is it 5 people?
Well, when nobody can get into it, you know, if it wasn't for Ann Hess, it'd probably never be open. She opens it up every morning so they can play bingo, they can do their chair exercises. I mean, I'm going to try to be nice. You're not beating around the bush. If the door's not open, you're not gonna get anybody in there. The most important thing is to get somehow access so people can open it up and keep it. They tried to get Dial-A-Buzz and Rec in there, so at least you'd have somebody there from 10 to 3 or whatever, open it up. It's not useless, but it's underutilized. You have to utilize it more. If in fact the town can buy it, it doesn't have to be a senior center anymore. You can let the Boy Scouts meet there, the Girl Scouts meet there. It's a beautiful building that's going to waste, is all I'm trying to say. And you can ask me all the questions you want. The answer is, use it. That your elected officials, the village board elected officials, figure out some way how we can better utilize that building.
Yeah,
And
I agree with you.
and make the expense of it spread equally among town residents rather than just village residents.
I agree with you, but I also want to be clear that as a alternative to the problem set, which was no access to the building, as a town board, we did something, and that is employ an agency that created programs. So don't let it be lost on that fact. But now, as far as this building's concerned, if we need to have a meeting with the other municipality, then fine. But last I mentioned, we don't have keys up here, so whoever has them.
I think the first thing we got to find out is from the county exactly what we're allowed to do under that grant that the village received. Let's get that out in the open. We can do this or we can't do that. Then once we have that, if we can't do anything with it, then we know that. But I'll put my efforts into getting something from the county.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. I'm sorry I took up so much of it.
That's all right. Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Moving on. The minutes of our last meeting on April 22nd. Do I need to have someone to approve it? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Communications. The week of May 12th to the 18th is National Police Week. On Wednesday, it's National Peace Officers Memorial Day. And believe it or not, the President of the United States sent a request asking that all the flags and municipalities be put at half-mast on Wednesday for the day. And the reason I say believe it or not, I get all sorts of things from the governor, but I've never gotten something when the governor says he wants the flags half-mast for one reason or another. We don't get that. No one tells us directly to put them half-mast. But I was very happy to see that the president said that he wants to see the flags half-mast. So it's National Police Week. We're right in the middle of it right now, and it'll end on the 18th. I've received a request from Mayor D'Onofrio for me to write a letter similar to what I did and let's see, a couple of years ago, June 2017, and that's to say that we are in full support of the Highland Falls Economic Development Corporation and their efforts to secure a grant. So I'll redo this letter, which I have from the past, and send that to the mayor. I received a letter from Assemblyman Colin Schmidt explaining the process on New York State being a home rule state, and that if there's anything that we would like to consider as a home rule, some examples of local bills that we may collaborate on. They include the following: statutory changes to support the needs of local government personnel, alienating it's not alienating either. Portions of parkland to accommodate other park or town needs, and designating state roadways and bridges in memory of a fallen hero. So his office is willing to work with us if we have some sort of home rule legislation we're looking for. Okay. I think I've got more communications, but it's mixed in the pile here, but we'll get to it. Financial reports, we paid out $70,900.92 from the paying account to cover the check run dated April the 25th. Larger items are group medical, $27,959. CDP, HP, and Shelter Point union and non-union employees. Ford Motor Credit Company for $11,000 for the lease on the police car. Rockland County Solid Waste, $9,303. Royal Carding, $23,060. That was for sanitation. And landfill charges, $2,891. And I'm saying that backwards. The $2,300 was for sanitation landfillings, and Schmidt Wholesale Incorporated for water equipment is $2,891. Royal Carding, I believe, is they carry the recyclables, and we're having a problem in that aspect. I'll get Pat to come to the meeting, maybe our next meeting, our next chance. It's now costing us as much, and actually a little bit more, for us to get rid of recyclables as it is solid waste. I mean, it's amazing we reached that point, but the recyclables, nobody wants it. China doesn't even want it. China wants anything that they get to be, I think it's 98% clean. Well, try to get the homeowners to clean up their... So I don't know where we're going to go with it, but right now, like I say, it's costing us more to get rid of that than it is our regular garbage. So I'm hoping Pat, through his Superintendent's Association, comes up with a grand plan as to what the county is going to do about it. Board liaison reports. I'll put my Richie Sullivan hat on. ZBA had no meeting for the month of May. In the sewer district on Saturday, the main breaker at Oakwood Pump Station failed, and the station ran on a generator for about 8 hours. Michael Perillo was called in and made repairs, which were functioning as of 10 o'clock this morning, Monday. Water District, a defective hydrant near the mobile station in Fort Montgomery, was being replaced today, and an alert was sent out to the subscribers that are in the neighborhood. And that's all done and working now. It's been out for a long time, and we finally got around to fixing it. One of the things I was worried about it is you have a restaurant on one side, you got a gas station on the other side, a body shop with all their paints and everything on the other side, and here, right in the middle, is this fire hydrant. It wasn't working. So we're all set with that. The building, the senior center issues will be discussed with the engineer and the village this week. He was asked to attend, and he will if he can. Brooks's Park attended he attended a softball game Friday evening, and though it's been wet, the game was played, and the drainage correction is at least helping. He went to an EAC meeting Friday at the town hall, sent the whole board my report, and they come up with a mission and vision statements as per the resolution request. Next, Councilman King.
Okay, good evening, evening, everyone, and good evening, everyone at home. So, a few notes here from the town of Highlands Recreation for older adults. Tuesday, tomorrow, the 14th of May, we have Westchester Broadway Theater. And you can contact 845-446-5983, which is the center, for these details. On Wednesday, June the 12th, we have Senior Speak Out, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the center. Bring your coffee, refreshments, and refreshments are served. Then we have Monday through Friday from July 8th to 12th, Niagara Falls, Toronto, Canada trip. And then Wednesday, August 21st, is Senior Recognition Day. Thursday, August 26th is Free Health and Information Fair. And that will be from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Senior Center, 15 Drew Avenue. And that is all for this. Actually, we have on Wednesday, September 18th, a Resort World trip to the Catskill Casino. So lots of good stuff happening. The senior coordinator, which is the center, is putting together some phenomenal programs. And so thank you for the team of folks that's doing that.
Okay, time Monday, there's the senior luncheon at Cool's Highland House. And one of the people being honored is our own Anne Maloney.
I will be there for that.
Okay, do you happen to know what time the bus is leaving?
No, I do not know what time the bus is leaving.
I think it's on Channel 23. I'll have to look at that myself, I'm not sure.
Let me see if I can find it.
Anyway, Councilman Parrish?
Just attended the village board meeting last week, at which Dr. Sheboy and Chris Burns spoke on the same subjects that they discussed tonight. So I've heard it a couple of times. The other departments that I keep tabs on seem to be moving along, progressing, and other than that, I have nothing else to bring up.
Jim?
Since the chief is on a little vacation, I'll read his report. The new Phase 2 candidates, of which we have 3, are busy with their training shifts. And the chief himself will be taking all 3 of them out for midnight shifts upon his return to make sure that they are qualified. He's applied for some equipment through the New York State Police, and it's a TRAX grant, and they will be receiving 4 new printers for the vehicles and 2 new scanners. And they had just replaced the scanner, which cost $400, so this is nice that the next set will be picked up by somebody else. And that he's applied for money for the 2020 vest reimbursement program, and he's awaiting approval on that. And he's applied for a new traffic grant for enforcement 2020. And they're in the process of using the money, the 2019 money up now, which ends in October of 2019. He's also applied for a new plate reader through OCSO terrorism money. That they have to wait until the announcement comes out and before he knows if they will receive it. And as far as the repeater goes, he has kept the board informed on what's going on with the repairs. And that's his report. And the department is doing really well. Our 3 candidates that we sponsored in Phase 2 are very enthusiastic, and he speaks highly of them, so that's good.
Along with the police report, I guess it falls under the same venue. We're running into a situation within the last couple of days where we have a tower on Bull Hill, Bull Tower. We've been leasing, we've had an agreement, it's a better way to put it, with West Point for at least the last 10 years that I know about, because I have the agreements. And in those 10 years, nothing has been said about money. They haven't asked for anything. nor have we given them anything. Now, we all of a sudden, almost similar to Long Pond, have gotten a notice from West Point that they would like $10,000 to $12,000 for the 5-year lease. They would like another $10,000 to $12,000 for the assessment of the properties by the Army Corps of Engineers. I don't know where that comes from, but that language was almost identical to what they gave us on Long Pond. I hope they don't expect us to step out of the
Good job, Deputy.